Hello, my name is Logan and I'm your host, the Mighty Pirate. In today's episode, I'm going over the costs of physical gaming. In this video, I will explain the costs of a variety of games. My main points of comparison will be expected cost or minimum cost required to play the game, and expected cost for competitive or tournament play. The games I will compare in this video are A Song of Fire and Ice, Bolt Action, Classic BattleTech and/or AlphaStrike, Magic: The Gathering Commander Edition, Pokemon Trading Card Game, Star Wars Armada, Warhammer 40,000, and YuGiOh. This video took a lot of research, so I'll have a list of my sources for those that are interested at the end of it. Please note this is meant to be informative. Costs and taxes vary from place to place, and even more so internationally, so take this video as an opinion piece. A Song of Fire and Ice is Game of Thrones, the tabletop game. It's made by Cool Mini or Not, and it uses rank and file formation tactics, as well as a non-combat board that will influence the outcomes of the battle. It also uses a tactic deck of cards that further affects the game. All models come pre-assembled. To play the game, you and one other player will need to buy a core set for $99, or the two-player starter set for $150. The rules are in the box. You will, however, need to buy the updated faction cards for each faction you play, and they are $20 each, making the starting cost to play this game somewhere between $95 and $120 per player. The updated game rules are available on the website. Otherwise, everything required to play is in those items. In tournaments, there is no formal requirement for painted miniatures, so most of the costs of the game are just the minis used. From what I've gleaned from A Song of Ice and Fire stats.com, most winning lists require a core box, 3 to 6 additional unit buys at $35 each, and 1 to 3 hero attachments at $35 each, as well as the respective faction cards, making the average cost between $260 to $435 per player. One of the reasons this cost spikes is due to the rule that you will bring 2 lists to a tournament, and you can switch between them from match to match. Bolt Action is a World War II tabletop game by Warlord Games that uses skirmish tactics as well as armored combat. The game has a random activation order to determine the sequence of play. I also find it tends to have more of a movie quality combat as opposed to the more stationary reality of war. Models come unassembled and can be difficult to assemble for first time and veteran hobbyists alike. To play the game, you and one other player will need to buy a faction starter box for $162. It will come with a wide range of faction-specific models, or the 2-player starter for $125, which comes with some German and American models. The 2-player set has all that it needs to play in the box, with the exception of the models are also unassembled and will require superglue, and some snips to remove them from the sprue. If you buy a faction starter box set, you will also require a core book for $40 and the faction book for $30. As well as order dice for $28 and some D6s, and a tape measure. Hobby model terrain is nice to have, but I and many others, I'm sure, have played war games with shoe boxes, cereal boxes, and the like to clutter a table, which means the starting cost of this game is somewhere between $72.50 and $283, as well as the time to assemble. There is no formal requirement for painted miniatures in Bolt Action, though they do need to be assembled, and you will likely need your rules for reference. The average events are 1,000 to 1,500 points, which is about what comes in a faction starter box, making the low end of competitive at about $283. And though it isn't required for competitive or tournament play, to fill out a force with options, I would recommend 1 to 2 additional transports at $37.50, 0 to 1 armored vehicles at $44, and 1 to 2 infantry choices for $53, making the competitive cost of Bolt Action somewhere between $283 and $508. To those of you familiar with this channel, this should come as no surprise, but Classic BattleTech and/or AlphaStrike are produced by Catalyst Game Labs and is played on a hex grid in the case of Classic Tech or on true scale terrain in the case of AlphaStrike. To play the game, you will need to buy 1 starter, which ranges between $20 and $60, and will have all of the content required to play the game for 2 or more players. Though, to play more advanced rules, you will need to buy a rulebook for either the AlphaStrike or BattleTech game system at $35 each. This is especially required when you buy the $20 version of the game. As for tournament play, there is no formal requirement for painted miniatures in BattleTech or in AlphaStrike. Most events will have the minis required and the rules expected to be used on hand. However, if one wanted to have their own mechs, I would advise 1 to 2 BattleTech starters at $50 to $60 each, and 2 to 3 force packs at $25 to $30 each, along with a Total Warfare gaming companion for $35, making the total cost of a competitive collection somewhere between $185 and $245 per player. Magic the Gathering Commander is a variant on the Magic rule set that uses single copies of any card, spare basic lands, and has tended to be one of the most widely available and commonly played formats of the game. To play the game, you'll need to buy one starting deck, which costs between $25 and $45 depending on how sought after or available the chosen deck is, making Magic the Gathering one of the cheapest games to start, and it will include all of the components required to play the game. The tournament or competitive play is another matter though. I took the average cost of the top 5 decks to get 5 price points for the most competitive commanders. The average deck list of each said commander was found on edhrec.com and the prices were found on cardkingdom.com. The average prices were $816, $1,377, $691, $629, making the average cost of a competitive commander to be about $850. The Pokemon trading card is one of the most long-running card games and has maintained popularity since 1998. It's played by all ages, so it needs little introduction. To play the game, you will need one starting deck per player, which are $15 to $25, making Pokemon even cheaper to play than most other card systems. For tournament data related to Pokemon, along with prices associated with those cards, I went to limitlesstcg.com and took the cost of the top 4 decks from the global finals. Their costs were $79.95, $47.87, $66.18, and $79.38, making the average cost of a World's winning tournament Pokemon deck to be $68.35, a stunningly affordable game to start and to play in more competitive fashions. Star Wars Armada is a game system that simulates fleet-to-fleet combat using some of the most memorable heroes and vehicles from the Star Wars universe. Models come pre-assembled and pre-painted, and though it is a system that is sought after by wargamers and collectors alike, finding some of the models can be difficult. To play the game, you'll need to buy the Rebels vs. Imperials 2-player starter set for $120, if that is one of the factions you want to play. But if you want to play the Old Republic or Separatist fleets, you will need to buy their starter boxes for $100. All the content required to play the game is in those starters, though the rulebook is out of date in the Rebels vs. Imperials box. An updated version is available online. For updated faction rules, there's an upgrade pack for the Imperials and Rebels for $30. In tournament lists, most lists will have 3 to 4 ships of various sizes. Each of these ships will cost $24 to $60, depending on its size, along with 1 to 2 squadron packs at $30 each, as well as some components from the starter box and likely a ship upgrade pack, making the starting cost somewhere between $184 to $390 for a competitive collection. Warhammer 40,000 is a game system that has been in production in some fashion since 1987. It has changed a lot in rules and model design. However, it is a great source of joy and despair for many over the decades, and has retained its spot as one of the most popular and commonly played war games to date. To play the game, you'll need to either buy the 2-player starter set for $165. In that box, it will represent 2 factions and will typically have all of the components required to play, spared the glue and snips required for assembly, which will set you back another $20, making the cost $92.50 per player. And despite what most people think, there is no requirement to paint your models in casual play. To play a faction other than one from the starter box, though, you will need to buy a core rulebook for $50, your faction's codex for $50, a start collecting box at $140, the aforementioned snips and glue, as well as dice and a tape measure for about $35 to $40. making the cost somewhere in between $92.50 and $275. This is also another game where hobby model terrain adds a lot to the experience, but isn't required. In tournament play, if your army is unpainted, you will score less points than your opponent. So, though it isn't a requirement, it would be a disadvantage to not have a painted army. The modern paint standard is 3 colors on a model, as well as basing. To find competitive lists, I went to bloodofkittens.com 9th edition top army list compendium. Most lists have 2 to 3 HQs at $25 to $45, 3 to 6 troop choices at $60 each, 2 to 4 heavy and elite choices at $60 each. You will need the aforementioned rulebooks along with the hobby supplies to paint, assemble, and play the game, making the cost about $630 to $895 per player to play at a competitive or tournament level. Though late to the card game market in North America, YuGiOh has maintained popularity, a steady release schedule, and an even longer running anime. To play the game, you will need to buy 1 starter deck, which range from $15 to $30, which puts it at a starting point comparable to most other card games. Using YuGiOh top decks, I found the 3 most recorded first place tournament winners had the following costs for their decks: $529.98, $362.19, $319.34, making the average cost of a competitive tournament winning deck $403.83. I would like to note that the most recent data I found was in February of 2021, so this info might not be as up to date as possible. That will conclude the costs of physical gaming. Thanks so much for watching. Here is a summary of the various game costs, and here is a list of my references. Have a great day.